Welcome to another episode of Real BMX Racing, the podcast. Today's show is sponsored by the #1 BMX starting gate, Pro Start, Answer BMX, BMX Connect, and Thor MX. Today's guest is your 4-time world champion and 2-time national champion, USABMX Women's Pro Olivia Armstrong. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello.
Big difference, right?
I know. I love it. That was so good.
All right. So I guess let's just dive into catching up to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Shannon, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, what you been up to?
You know, just living the life of a pro BMXer. Honestly, it's been really, really nice because Grands was in November and we haven't had any races. And it is almost the end of February, which is awesome. Usually we're like right off the bat at the end of January, we're into racing and you have no proper off season. You can't really get a good block of training in because all you want to do after Grands is kind of relax and like live a normal person lifestyle.
Right.
And you have to be on the training. So it was nice to take a good break after Grands and then get back into the training swing. So it's just been a lot of hard workouts and getting to do the stuff that we don't normally get to do. So.
I mean, are you really able to relax? Like, I mean, without thinking about BMX and thinking about, you know what, she's probably training. Like, I need to get on my bike, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a good, like, Christmas is a good time because it's, like, supposed to be family and, like, you have a bunch of events and things to do during Christmas. So it's a little bit easier to get your mind off of it. And we normally have snow. So that helps me, like, think about it a little bit less because I can go snowboarding and go skiing up at the mountain, and I can't really be on my bike. So I can go to the gym, but at least not on the bike.
Right.
I've seen the bikes with the skis on it. Maybe you can buy one of those.
There's a mountain like 30 minutes from us that does ski biking, but you have to get like a whole like membership thing because it's a liability to have people on a bike.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because if they go down the mountain without you, that's going to take somebody out at the bottom of the mountain. So they make sure that you're connected to the bike and you have to go through a whole little like training certification.
Nice.
And I also just recently saw guys going down like a slalom. Like it looked like a regular ski slalom course, and they were on mountain bikes, just sticking their legs out and sliding and sticking their legs out, you know.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
It looked fun also, but the courses were really short for some reason. But you know how it goes. Like people look at BMX and think like the 30-second, oh, it's so short. But yeah, you get out there and race, bro. It doesn't seem short when you're racing, right?
You can get your heart rate up in 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
So have you snowboarded?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Bend, Oregon, and we have 2 mountains that are super close to us. So I was skiing and snowboarding since I was like 5. It was kind of like the natural, like throw them up on the mountain, go with your parents. It was just kind of the natural flow of things around here. So I love doing that in the off season. It's a good like break. There's nothing bike related. It's not. It's no stress. You just go to the mountain, have a good time.
So if me and Shannon was with you up there, and we see the half pipe, and we're all 3 of us are standing right there, and we're like, "Show us how to drop in." Are you dropping in?
I could definitely drop in on skis. On snowboarding, a little bit less. I learned how to ski when I was super young, and I have this idea that because bikes we go forward. Mm-hmm. The snowboarding turning sideways and going down the mountain like this is trippy to me. Like I am way more natural on skis than I am a snowboard. So I could definitely drop in on the skis. I might eat crap if I was on the snowboard. So it might be entertaining, but
I mean, do you kind of take it easy when you're on the snow? Just knowing that if you get injured that your season is probably done?
A little bit. I did like the park a lot more when I was younger because when I would fall, it really wouldn't hurt. But I feel like now when I fall on the snow, it hurts just as much as a bike. Like the snow is pretty packed. So I do a little bit less of the park stuff. And like jumping on skis or snowboard is very different than a bike. Like you'd think it'd be the same idea, but it feels very different. Like you don't have as much pop and you don't have as much control, in my opinion. So I like to just like be in the powder, be in the trees, and less of the park stuff. That's where you're gonna get hurt.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys skiing and snowboarder kind of guys?
I always wanted to try snowboarding because I grew up with a skateboard, but my buddy went one time and he came back and his face was all burnt up and he was like, ice burns. And I was like, what in the world are ice burns? Like, this is early
no.
90s, and I just remember his face was really jacked up.
Oh, that's
I
brutal.
was just like, nope.
Yeah, I've never got that, so don't let that steer you away from it. It's fun.
Yeah, when I was young, I played soccer, and we played forward, and my other forward, and he was really good, and we needed him, man. So he went on the ski trip, came back with a broken leg, and was like, well, I was like, I never want to ski. Man. It was something. it looked so fun, something I thought I could probably be decent at, but I just never had the opportunity to really,
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want to.
And I will say it's definitely easier to learn when you're like 5 years old than you are 45. Like just being comfortable with moving and not like you feel like you're out of control, like that kind of stuff is a little bit.
Because you are.
Right.
Yeah.
45.
It's a controlled, uncontrollable thing. If that makes sense.
What about ice skating?
Yeah, we have an ice skating rink. I'm pretty good at it. I took my niece this winter. That was one of her presents. She wanted to go to the skating rink with me, so I put that under the tree, and I was like, "All right, perfect."
There you go.
But yeah, we have all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like the Winter Wonderland here. Like it's kind of like a Hallmark movie kind of vibe.
Oh, that's
all
cool.
the winter things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, and I don't remember, were you Oregon Ducks or Oregon Beavers fan?
I'm definitely a Duck fan, mostly because the BMX track is right next to the stadium. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I was riding there last weekend actually, because that part of the state gets mostly rain. They don't get a lot of snow, and so they have like the Oregon Ducks stadium, and the BMX track is right next to it, and they park all of the people at the BMX track. So that BMX track gets a lot of revenue purely from the Duck Stadium parking,
right,
which is nice.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
it's really good. People should they should consider that. That's that's a whole good idea right there.
Yeah, and they had a national the last 2 years of that track, so they do pretty well. They actually have a soil track like slurry mix on it that we can ride in the winter. So they definitely know what they're doing over there.
Awesome.
Have you ever played hockey?
No hockey.
Never? No, not even just fun?
Nope. No really? Hockey. That's more like the North Dakota, South Dakota, like Minnesota. That's less. We don't really have much hockey in Oregon.
Okay. I just think cold hockey. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I think most of our people just are skiers and snowboarders, or they play like basketball, wrestling, something like that. It's just less of a culture thing here.
When I was like a real young teen, I used to score hockey games at the local rink.
Cool.
So then we used to drive the Zamboni, and so one time at night, me and my friends, we got a bunch of beer, and so we decided to grab the equipment and go out and play hockey.
Were you guys good at it?
No, we were terrible, man. We all got hurt. It was just
we all got hurt. Oh, so I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you first got your first BMX bike?
I was 5 years old when I got my first bike. I was kind of like born out at the track though, because my brother is 7 years older than me, and he kind of started racing when I was born. So like I was like in my mom's arms at the BMX track. So I was like around a lot of bikes, but I really didn't have interest until I was like 5. I was like, the candy and like playing in the dirt was more fun than like riding a bike at that point. And we didn't have Striders back then. Like the kids now that are on Striders, so lucky that wasn't a thing when I was 5. And so like 5 years old, I kind of had to be bribed to get on the track. I didn't really want to. And then it just kind of sparked from there. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. And just kept it rolling.
That's funny you said that. My mom just asked me the other day about Striders. She said, when did the Striders come out? She said, when you were a kid, they didn't have Striders, And I'm like,
I think it was like 2012 to like 14 was when they started really rolling out. When I remember them. Kind
of recent, then. All right.
Yeah. And now we got Stasic, so it's just going to keep progressing.
Now, how long were you on training wheels? Do you remember?
I remember this pretty vividly. I had like a little like Walmart bike that had like pink tassels on it, like the classic whatever. And both my parents own their own businesses. So like my mom was at home, my dad was working somewhere, and I was outside riding my bike, and I was like, I don't want these training wheels. And I figured out how to take the training wheels off myself and started riding. And my parents are like, what the heck? But I wanted to ride like a big kid. So figured it out.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say mine was I remember I had them on my bike, but wherever we lived, the kids were always older. So I was probably like, 7 or 8, but the kids were
Mhm.
like 16 to 18. So when they
Mhm.
saw me, they're like, you don't need those training wheels. So they took a hammer and bent them up.
They're just hanging there.
Right. And so they're like, go, just go, dude. You're riding. So I'm like, okay. So I'm riding around and having fun with the kids, whatever. And I go home and my mom just looks at my bike and she's like, look at
What do you do to that thing?
right. And she's just like, oh my gosh. She's like, you're riding like that. And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, the big
I
kids
want to
are
be a
doing
big
it.
kid.
Right. So I was out there just getting it, without the training wheels on.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. One way or the other. Figure it out.
That is funny, man.
Super cool.
So also too, I wanted to ask you, so I'm assuming you live in that general area where you were at. So growing up that you've been there at that track, how often would you say that they changed the layout of that track?
I would say that before we got the glue and the soil tack and that stuff on it, it was probably like every 2 years we would do a change.
Okay.
And I have 2 tracks that I can ride at. And so I would say it was pretty much good sync where one track would change one year and then the next track would change the next year.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a good rotation. The current track, I don't think we're planning on changing it this year. And I think this will be year number 3. But just because there's been so much time, money, labor going into putting that surface on that it hurts when you have to take apart a jump and redo all of that with all that money. So
did you help design the track?
I didn't help design it, but I gave my my advice. So they had like a couple layouts and I was like, let's adjust that. We shouldn't do this. But we actually had Lance, the track builder for USABMX. He came out and did the track build. So he knows what he's doing. If it was just our local people, I would have a lot more input on it, but he knows what he's doing. So I had pretty good faith in it.
And how far are the tracks from you that you ride at?
Currently, 2 minutes away is one of my tracks, which is just fantastic.
Right.
And then the other one is like 20 minutes. And that one is like I have to drive 20 minutes. But I know most.
Come on, man. I gotta drive 20 minutes just to get on the highway.
Living the dream right
there.
Yeah,
I know. What?
I know. And I realized that when I went to school in Indiana, we had the track on campus, but most of the time that one wasn't very rideable. So we would drive 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour on a weekday, come back and go to class at 8 a.m. And it was that was crazy. So I'm blessed to have the tracks that close.
The track was unrideable.
Yeah, because the drainage was weird and it would rain a lot or it was closed because it was on the university campus. So there wasn't like as many scheduled practices and races and we couldn't be out there by ourselves. So it just depended on the rules kind of situation.
Wow.
That's what it is.
I'm like taking it. So how long were you at the college doing the college racing?
So I did that for 4 years, got my bachelor's degree, and then got out of there in 2022 and came back to Oregon.
And what is your degree in?
I got a dual degree in finance and management.
Oh, okay.
I don't really use them, but I got them.
I was about to say, are you using them? But okay.
Yeah, so recently I did take a job. I've been way busier in this off season. I took a job as a manager of the gym that I've been working out at for a long time. I've been training there since I was like 15, I want to say. And so I do kind of use my degree, but I more use my gym knowledge and my coaching knowledge working at that gym. But it's good to have a degree in your back pocket for sure.
Totally.
That's
See,
cool.
Shannon, it's not too late for you, Shannon. You can still go back to school.
Do it. Go get a scholarship. Ride a bike.
There you go.
Yeah. And the cool part is they don't just have BMX. So you can do mountain bikes, you can do cyclocross, you can do road, you can do the velodrome.
Oh, really?
They will let you ride and race all of those. I did all of them except for cyclocross. I did not see pleasure in like riding a bike in the freezing cold in the mud and jumping over hurdles. That just wasn't
Did you have to maintain like a certain level to continue to like be on the team or something?
Once you kind of get your scholarship, it kind of stays. The only like level that you have to maintain is your grades. If your grade point average goes below something, you're not allowed to go to practices, not allowed to go to races, and they won't support you.
Oh, wow.
Because academics come first and then the cycling comes second. But if you get hurt or something like that, they're never going to pull your scholarship. It's not like football where if you get hurt, you're done. Once you get your scholarship, you're kind of in.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the college in case somebody was looking to get into that?
It's Marion University, and it's in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Champ, you got something?
Yeah, I'm just still tripping off the fact that you have a track 2 minutes from your house.
And the best part, I don't even want to tell you this, but we have the track, and there's a Velo Solutions pump track right next to it. And they're gonna build a whole dirt jump line right next to that now. So
wow.
we're very blessed, and it is a lot of work of our local volunteers. Like they've gotten most of the funding and really tried to get all of this cycling stuff out at that track. So it's pretty rad.
You could get a lot of bike time in, man, with those 3 things right there.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Real. And I have my sprint spot right here. Everything is pretty much within 10 minutes of me. I go to my gym, sprint spot, track. It's all within 10 minutes, which is great.
Yeah, it makes life so much easier. You don't waste
time. Makes my motivation a little bit easier to actually go do training.
Right.
You know what? That's the thing, because sometimes I'm like, I gotta get in my car, drive 50 minutes to the track, and then I gotta do the workout, then I gotta drive 50 minutes back. It's like, come on, man.
Mm-hmm. Is there any chance you guys get a track this closer or no?
Ours is like what, 30, 40 minutes?
I mean, for me to Tanglewood is 35 minutes. Burlington is, but that's like kind of a little, they just haven't been able to work on that track for a while now, put it that way. So, Burlington's 50 minutes from me. So that's
crazy. I give you guys props for doing the drive.
You know what, though? There's guys that live out on the coast, like in Wilmington. So, I mean, right?
Yeah,
what were they driving? 3 hours to Raleigh?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And that was their closest track.
That's crazy.
And they used to come out every single weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some dedication and some gas money.
Right. And there was times too where I'd be like, message him like, bro, don't come. It's raining out here. He'd still be like, where are you going? Right. He's still like, I'm coming. Like, we'll see when they get there. I'm like, bro, they're gonna pull the plug. Just stay home.
That's right. There were a few families out there that used to come in. That's right. And that's right. And both families had 4 in the family, right? And they all raced. Right.
Yep.
Mother, father.
Yeah, not just like gas expense. It's expensive to have 4 people racing or practicing.
Oh yeah. So how old were you when you first started jumping?
That is actually a tough subject. I was a very late bloomer on jumping in all skills. For the longest time. So a little bit about my story. I started when I was 5, and then I didn't really do any nationals of any sort until I was like 13. So I just did like state, local stuff, had fun. My parents didn't have the most money, and we weren't gonna take a second mortgage out to race BMX. Like that wasn't the vibe that we were going for. And so we raced state and local stuff. I had fun. I think the reason why I'm still in the sport is because I didn't go super fast, like through my beginning years. And then when I started like racing some nationals at 13, I was pretty naturally good. I was pretty strong. So I could get to the first turns first before most people. And I think that was kind of a con because I was winning these races and I wasn't forced to manual or jump. I didn't have to get forced to do my skill progressions. And when I would mess up my manual or jump, I probably wouldn't win. So I was just wanting to win. And that is an excuse 100%. I should have been manualing and jumping at 12, 13, even sooner. But I didn't really get forced to do it until I was like 16, I would say. Even though many people along my path tried to get me to manual and jump, it was 100% a mental block along that way. But then I finally saw the reward of like, at 16, I cannot pump these things and win the race. So now it's the opposite. I actually have to work on these things if I want to win the race. And that was pretty brutal. Like being at 16, being NAG 1 and you couldn't manual or jump something. So it definitely was a big mental hurdle. But it was basically stated to me, like, if you want to win, you got to manual or jump. And I remember it distinctly. I went to Worlds for the first time and it was in Belgium.
Nice.
And the first jump you had to jump. There was no option. Like it was so brutal to pump. Like you would almost like go over the bars at the speed we were going. And the coach looked at me, if you want to make the main, you better jump the jump. I was like, okay. And you only have like you maybe have like 3 laps or 4 laps of practice 2 days. So it's a max of like 6 laps on this like World Cup level track. That's insane. And the last lap, they drop the gate and have everybody roll through. And I was like, all right, here we go. Like I'm jumping it, I'm crashing, or I'm gonna do good things in the next races.
Right.
I jumped it and I like cased it, but I was just fine. And I was like, okay, that day's done. And then the second day of practice, I think I jumped it twice, but like every time I was terrified. Like my adrenaline levels were high. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Coming into racing, I actually made the main, got World 3, got World 1 on cruiser, and was like, okay, this pays off. If I just jump the damn thing, I'm going to survive. I'm in my brain, I'm telling myself I'm going to die if I jump this thing. But that race specifically was like, okay, you have the ability. It's purely mental that's holding you back from this. And after that race, I feel like I came back and actually had determination to work on my skills and less fear about like, you're not going to die. Yeah.
So I'm seeing girls like around 12, 13, 14 that are just starting to manual and jump, but it's a mix, you know. I mean, some of the fastest girls around that age, they're not at all.
Yeah.
You know, and they're still winning just because they're not going at that speed where they absolutely have to, you know.
And I think it's a balance. It's if you want to be fast now or you want to be fast later. And you can do a balance of both and be working on your skills. And maybe you're not fast enough to use them in the race, but you're still practicing them and working on that skill progression. And that's what with all my girls, that's like the number one thing I'm telling them. Learn from my mistake. I struggled. I still struggle. And you can eliminate that by just doing the hard thing now and keeping it rolling. But you can win at pretty much any age pumping everything, but it's going to be a lot better if you work on those skills sooner.
I think it's a little safer, yeah.
So how old were you when you were first sponsored?
So I think it was 2014. And that was the year there was a local coach in Oregon, and he was it was like a bike shop team. It wasn't anything special, but he had a training program that he did, and he was a vet pro at the time. So he was just running this team. It was sponsored by Fly and some other bigger brands. And so he was like, you could possibly be good and win some NAG titles. And I was like, well, I don't even know what a NAG title is. Like, what are you talking about? And so he was like, hey, I want you on the team. We're going to start training. And I was like, okay, why do you train for BMX? Like, I was so clueless, had no idea. Because my whole upbringing was go to the track, have fun, ride with your family or friends. And like, that's all I knew. So he pretty much opened my whole mindset to like, okay, you train, you eat specifically so that you can go train on a bike and race good, get enough sleep. You look at your videos. Before that, I never looked at videos of me riding. I didn't care. Like, I was just having fun. And so that was like the first big sponsorship, because they like gave us our Fly gear and we got jerseys and we got a frame, and like my parents were like, this is awesome. We don't have to pay for this stuff. This is sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Before that, I was always on like a local team. The state series is super competitive here. So I would win my class for the girls for the state stuff. And so I was always on a team. But I think it was Black Box Industries was the first like real sponsorship. I was getting jersey, helmet, kit, all of that stuff. Yeah.
So what is Black Box? I never heard of that.
Yeah, so he just started it. I think he had it for maybe like 8 years, and it was just while he was racing Vet Pro, and he wanted to pass on his knowledge. And so kind of like what I do with my training programs, all of his athletes were on his team as well. To be like me doing mine, but having a team, which is so much work. I don't think that's going to be in my cards anytime soon. It's definitely a lot of work if you want to race, run a team, and coach people. It's a full-time gig. And so he was just a little bike shop situation, just mostly in the Oregon, Washington, some California area. And we did do a couple good scores at the nationals, like on the team sheets, but it wasn't anything crazy.
So with your training, with the training that you offer, is that something you do in person, or do you offer like an online thing as well, or which one
So
is it?
I do kind of both.
Okay.
I have realized by doing, I travel around in my van and I coach clinics in person. And what I really realized with that is that most tracks have never even seen a pro at their track. They've like the kids have never even seen a pro ride. They've never seen a pro race in person. And so it really made me think like there's a lot of people out there that want to get better, that want to progress, but they genuinely don't have the people around them to help them. Right. There was a couple tracks like in Wyoming that I stopped in, and they'd never seen a pro. Even like the track operators and those people had never seen a pro. Some of these girls that I was talking to didn't even think being a professional woman was a thing. And I like opened their brain to like, you can be a pro in BMX and be a female. They had no idea it was a thing. So my remote training, I'm trying to take those people or the people that are just trying to get to the next level in the national standings, and just be their support person. So if it's as simple as I'm helping you with your pumping and your cornering and like the very basics of balancing in a gate. I have worked with people like that. I've worked with people that are like one of my girls won both NAG ones this year at Grands. So it's very like there's the very serious nag, and then there's like the balancing in the gate. And so I just try to make everything remotely feel as in person as possible. So we do a lot of video reviews. I talk to my kids I text them almost every single day. We're in constant communication so that they feel like I'm kind of there, even though I'm not.
Right. Now, if somebody wanted to do all this, where would they go to sign up with your online training?
So I have a website. It's oliviaarmstrongbmx.com, and it has all the info. And there's even a spot if you want to reach out about me coming and doing a clinic, you can reach out there. And then you find all the information about remote training, clinics, anything that I do is on there.
Do you offer nutrition as well, or?
So with the monthly training, it depends on you as an athlete. So I'm just sharing my experience with them, my knowledge that I've gained through the years. Nutrition is a very big one for me. I was a chubbier kid and I had no idea what nutrition was. I was eating cereal after school every day and like Lucky Charms and Pop-Tarts and whatever. And I had a really big realization that wasn't helping me on a bike, and that changed. But with the remote training program, I look at you as an athlete. What is the number one thing that we can change to see progress, right? So if that's a mental training book, if that is doing your nutrition, if that is working on just video review mainly, we're basically going to take what is your top priority and we can work with that. And then we move on to the next thing. So I have a mom that is doing my training, and we are tracking all of her food and building healthy habits. And then once we feel like that's solid, then we'll move on to the next thing. It's just kind of about building and being a well-rounded athlete.
Cool.
That's awesome, because I'm sure you teach these kids a lot, but I think not more than anything, but just as important is the fact that they have a mentor and that you're in touch with them, and that you might watch their races and critique them, and they want to do it for them, but they want to do it for you also.
Yeah. I really feel like I'm like an emotional support person majority of the time, because a lot of kids cannot go to their parents and they have too much emotional tie. And so they come and tell me these things, and I like talk them off the ledge kind of the majority of the time, where they're like, I suck at bikes. That moto was terrible, blah, 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 blah. And I just like hype them up, tell them the truth, and all right, let's go get this race. Where if it comes from a parent, it does not stick as well, and usually it ends up in tears or a fight or something like that. So there is a big benefit to having an outside person to help.
I mean, because most of the time, from my experience, when the kid wants to quit, it's the parents, man.
Yep, and that's another thing I have been working on a little bit. Last year I did one parents coaching like clinic kind of thing. And it's a tough thing to do, because I genuinely think a lot of kids that quit, it's because of their parents. And it's a lot of ego and a lot of expectations. And I was super lucky, like I said, to grow up, and I was just racing to race, have fun. Like I didn't even realize that there was that next level of BMX. And like, for me, my parents said, like, love you no matter the finish. And they meant that. Like, if you gave your best out there, we love you. Like our love is not going to be affected by you winning or losing on the track. Right. And a lot of the kids that I deal with, they think there's a direct link between if they lose, their parents don't love them. And that hurts me inside. Yeah. And so I did a clinic. It was on WebEx, and it was for parents. I had like 8 people sign up, and I went through a slideshow, told them my story, how my parents kind of went through it, the experiences that I've had with other parents. And then we went through a couple bullet points and things that they can work on and how they can go about it with their kids. And I did get a lot of good feedback on that. It's just really hard because your ego has to be checked at the door if you're going to enter into something like that. Right. Because most parents don't think that they have that problem. So I'm working on it. I think if we go towards the root of the problem, it'll help all the kids. There we go. But the ego has to be checked, which is hard. But. So
I'm assuming there's a section about factory dads?
Pretty much all about factory dads. Yeah. The gear doesn't need to change. That's going to be one of the slides. Doesn't need to change. Just leave it.
I mean, I've seen kids cross the finish line in tears, because they knew that their dad was waiting for them. Not because they lost, just because dad was not going to be happy. And sure enough, some of the dads I'll see it like, yeah, you should be in tears. You didn't do this or that. It's like, oh, bro, chill out.
It's a hard balance because we are in a sport where these 8-year-olds are up on the world stage. Like most 8-year-olds are not under that pressure. They don't have to deal with that. Like most 8-year-olds can't even remember what they ate for lunch, and they're trying to like remember 20 things to do on the track, right? Like it's definitely something that's challenging, and the parents don't understand 8-year-olds.
No, they don't. The only ones that really do, I think, is the ones that rode,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes the people that rode are almost worse because they're living through their kids. They're very basically living through their kids. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to tell, but there's definitely some parents out there. I'm not a quiet one with that. Like if there's a parent screaming at their kid in tears in the parking lot, I've stepped in multiple times. I don't care if my persona's changed or people are mad at me. I will stand up for that kid because that hurts me big time.
Oh yeah. And the first thing I think of is like, what is this kid going through at home? Like if this guy's out here in the public, man, giving it to his kid. I seen a parent actually, he thought he was in the corner, nobody was watching. He's telling his kid to pull his pants down. This kid was like 5 or 6 years old. So I was like, hey, buddy, like just try to distract him, let him know, like, I see you, man, Yeah. And it's sure enough, the kid didn't pull his pants down, but he still probably got it later on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Come on,
and
man,
like I said, it should be a fun thing. Like BMX it is a serious thing. You want to go win, you want to give it your all, but it should be fun at the end of the day. Like when it's turned into too much of a business for these kids when they're 8 and 10, like that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to hang out with their buddies, have fun, learn life lessons, and move on,
And continue to be a kid, like, come on, man.
And make friends.
And that's one thing I love. Donnie Robinson is a big proponent of the slow to fast method of like, you shouldn't have your 8-year-old going to every national possible. He wants you to be at the local level. He wants you to learn your skills, do your progression, have fun. And then once you're like 12, 13, if you're fast enough to go to the nationals, go do it. But he's really a big proponent of going slow into the fast, because that's what you're going to get the longevity of the athlete. If you go way too fast, they're going to burn out and hate BMX the rest of their life.
Right.
Oh, we've seen it. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, every time we go to every year, the season starts, it's like a whole different group of people at the track. Yeah. The new guys are so happy and gung-ho to come in, and then the other ones just like, F this, I'm done,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like the new layout that they have though, where like for your wins, you have to get so many different or same age group. So at your local, it's not like you can just get 20 wins to get bumped up and then go to a national and you're just like,
yeah,
I got 9 wins against my mom.
For sure. And that's crazy. Like back in the day, there wasn't even an intermediate class for the girls. It just went novice to expert. Right. And so I think I maybe got my wins for novice, but you could just say, hey, I want Olivia to be an expert, and they just bump you up. Right. So I don't think that I did very much novice or intermediate. I just went straight to expert, which I wish there would have been more of a progression. So they're making changes for the good, for sure.
Was that somebody we were talking to that was in Australia where there's just age groups, not proficiencies, right? So yeah.
Wow.
So when you start, you're starting with somebody that might have been racing for the last 10 years or something. Yeah,
That's
so you're just
crazy.
in an age group. There's no experts or nothing. Everybody races against each other.
I mean, I guess that's a motivation. I got beat by a whole straight. Let's try to make it half of a straight.
I know. How do you go home and like continue to be motivated after that? You know?
Yeah, and it's just boring to watch. Like when somebody just destroys people, it's not very entertaining to watch that kind of racing.
Not at all.
True.
I mean, so what keeps? I mean, are there any days you wake up, you're like, I don't want to train, I don't want to get on my bike, I just want to do regular stuff, or just want to lay down, or like, what keeps you motivated to push through that?
Yeah, I would say that my motivation is pretty high for the gym. I just appreciate the constant like grind to get bigger numbers and a PR and like that competitive drive. As far as the track, you would think that would be easier for me to get motivated, but I don't have anybody in Oregon that is really I'm the only pro in Oregon, and the experts are kind of like the experts that I had, they all went to college at Marion University, so I sent them there. Now I have nobody to train with, so that was my fault. But I like the oldest kid that I ride with is 12, and so I have like not a lot of competition, and so my motivation is pretty. It's hard to find when I'm doing track work. But I would say like I've figured out ways to overcome that. Like I have my timers for the track so that I'm competing against myself. And then I do have a coach for myself, and so that keeps me accountable. Like I have a workout, I'm paying for it, so I better do the dang workout. So there are days I don't want to do it, but I think of the goal at the end of the year. What do I want to accomplish? And that keeps me going.
Are you a big believer of listening to your body or just pushing through it?
Kind of both. It's definitely a middle ground. If I have crashed and I'm physically injured, I'm listening to my body 100%. I am not a proponent of it's just a race, or it's a race, you got to push through it. And that was one thing I was tested on 2 years ago when I broke my collarbone. They said that I could come back, and they didn't clear me for grands, but I was able to ride a bike. And I was like, so what's the reason? Like, why am I not allowed to race? And they said, if you crash, you can break the plate and we'll have to have surgery again. I was like, okay. But they're like, you can go ride and have fun, just nothing that you have a chance of crashing. And many people in the BMX world told me, you should be racing grands. Like, you're clear to ride. Like, just push through it. You'll be fine. I took that grands off, and I'm happy I did. If I would have crashed and had surgery, I would have been hurt for even longer. So I'm definitely a proponent of, if I crash and my body doesn't feel right, I'm not going to push through that. I want to throw a football when I'm 40. I want to be able to like run around with my kids and actually have a body that feels semi okay when I'm older. As far as training though, if my muscles are sore and I'm like, oh, they're sore, I don't want to do my sprints, I will push through and do my sprints. There is waves in training, so you have certain weeks that are supposed to be really hard, you have certain weeks that are supposed to be super easy. And so if it's programmed for me, I will do the training.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I heard was I could throw a football in there.
Yes.
What are we talking? 10, 20, 30 yards?
I don't know. I actually am more of a volleyball person. I've been coaching this winter. I've been coaching volleyball as well. I played in high school, and so I just went to Vegas with them and been traveling. So I can serve a volleyball pretty far. I don't know about throwing a football. I gotta test that out. I'll do that on my next test.
Just in case you wanted to.
I never thought about that, because I was like watching, like, you know, because a lot of the pros, they put their training videos on there, and I'm watching them do the box jumps and everything. And I never thought about the fact that how high you guys can jump. Can you imagine that transitioning over into volleyball? Like you guys could be way up there spiking the hell out of that thing.
Yeah. So, and it was super cool. I think I'm a big proponent that BMX is awesome and you should do BMX, but I also got a lot from doing a team sport in high school. So I played volleyball all 4 years, and there was a lot of mental pieces that I took from volleyball into BMX and then vice versa. And I think it made me a way more well-rounded of an athlete and just more mentally prepared for whatever was thrown my way. But the volleyball training is so fast paced and so explosive. That's when I won my 4 world championships, was during high school. So it was like perfect training to be doing that explosive volleyball and be doing BMX. Right. And we won 2 state titles in volleyball at the same time. So like they were kind of bounding off of each other. And like now I play volleyball like with the girls I coach. I just like jump in and play with them, and it is like the best like fun training that I could do. Like, and it's I feel like a kid again. I feel like I'm in high school.
Right.
So I found a link, well, especially at our local track, that a lot of kids' second sport was soccer. So, and that was my second sport as a kid, you know, so I played soccer and rode a bike, and I always felt like they helped each other. You know, so some of the fastest kids, you know, like I just realized, oh, they play soccer too. There's got to be a connection, man. You know, I mean, all sports, of course, but especially soccer. And usually these guys are like the forwards, you know, that are fast, you know.
Yeah, it's a good balance. Like you have to have that base cardiovascular endurance, and that's what we call our zone 2. Like you got to be able to last throughout the race day. You have to be able to last from Friday to Sunday, that kind of endurance. And then like that sprinting, just being able to go from 0 to 100 that fast. And I think like sports like soccer, it works on your coordination so much, and it's so different than a bike, but your general coordination of your body to muscle connection is so important. That's why a lot of the old people they're like, I can't jump rope anymore. And you're like, why? You just haven't practiced it. Your brain doesn't have that connection to your muscles and how they're firing when you're jump roping. So I think that connection is super big just with your coordination.
See, Shannon, you're old. That's why you're not coordinated.
No, you just got to go play some soccer. I promise. Go play some soccer. You'll be better at BMX.
So, okay. So I saw that in March of 23, you broke your hand. What happened?
So it was kind of a skill-based thing of me not being a jumper, kind of. I was in Chula Vista, California at the OTC training center. And I was riding the big hill, and the big hill is the 8-meter start hill with the big jump at the bottom. And I had done it a couple times, and on one of the runs, I kind of went off the lip. I felt the wind, and I just like got super tense. And if the wind happens, you shouldn't be super tense. And I crashed. Like it was very odd because I held on to my handlebars the whole time, and my finger was on the brake lever the whole time. And when I did that, my pinky and my middle finger basically got crushed. So like this guy, that's as far as he bends now. It's supposed to go like that.
Oh yeah.
So my fingers got basically exploded. I have the x-rays, but I had to have a pin in the top of my fingers and the like bottom side. And they had to reattach the tendon that makes you go like this. They had to reattach that through my fingernail onto my bone. So I had to stitch through my fingernail that was holding that together. And then I had pins and all of that. It was disgusting. Yeah. But I broke my collarbone at that same time. So I was in a sling and I had the pins in my fingers, and it was pretty brutal.
The collarbones suck, bro. People don't understand. Until you break one, it's like,
I broke 2 in 1 year, so that was brutal.
Well, because I was going to say that. So in that same year, you in September at the Dixieland,
Derby City.
Yep. You broke your collarbone there.
Yep. So it's the same collarbone. When I crashed, so for my fingers, when they told me, "Oh, you broke your fingers," I was like, "Okay, we'll be waiting for the collarbone. Fingers will heal. Like that's the easy thing, right?" And then my fingers took way longer to heal than I thought. So my collarbone was perfectly fine, totally healed. I got cleared from the doctor, and I was racing at Derby City, and 2 girls were in front of me on the very first race of the first day, and they jumped, came together, and when they landed, they exploded. And at Derby City, it was in the second turn, which it's a downhill second straight into a very downhill turn. That's like you have a lot of speed going. And so when I landed the double going into that second turn, they were already on the ground. I had nowhere to go. And with all that force, I just hit them, and I took it the corner straight to this side. And I felt it instantly, like, okay, my collarbone's broke. Sweet. Like this was just like 5 months ago. Like what the heck? And so luckily my mom was there, went to the hospital, and they're like, so you definitely need surgery. And I was actually on the middle of my van trip. So I was driving my van all around, doing clinics, doing all the things.
Yeah.
My mom is a saint, and she drove me from Louisville to Oregon in like 2.5 days. I was in the passenger seat with my sling, just like passed out for a long time.
Right.
Like we would be in a different state by the time I woke up. I was like, oh, it's crazy. But she got me home. I had surgery, so now I have a plate in the collarbone, and it's rock solid. Nothing's gonna break that plate now.
So it was just by chance your mom was at that national, or did she?
Yeah, completely luck. Like I was on my van trip. I had already been on the road for a whole month, and she was like, "Hey, I want to surprise you. I'm gonna come watch Louisville. I want to support you. Be there." And somebody must have known upstairs to get her to that race. I don't know.
Right.
But it was purely luck, or I would have been leaving the van there and flying home, or I don't know how it would have worked, but.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. I thought maybe she flew out to come get you or something.
Yeah, no, she was already there. But it sucked. Wow. She got to see me race half of a lap. That was the first race on the first day.
Jeez.
But it's all good. It's story to tell, right?
Right. So I saw that in 24 grands you did pretty well. So that means, how did you come back mentally to get to right there?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty tough because after breaking my fingers and my collarbone, I was like, okay, that was actually the first bone I've ever broken, was my fingers and collarbone. Like I lasted 17 years riding a bike and not breaking a bone. And then I broke it and I was like, okay, that wasn't as terrible. Like breaking bones didn't hurt as bad as people like put it out to be, in my opinion. And I was like, dude, it was really expensive too. Hated that. So I was like, I don't want to break more bones. But the mental side of like both of them, I felt like weren't in my control. Like the wind was the first one, and the second one, like people crashed and I got the worst of it. That was kind of playing in my head because it was like, I felt like I couldn't control that. So going into a race, I was like, just don't crash. Right. So for like the first couple months, it was like, just don't crash. Like, don't take that extra chance. Right. But in BMX, if you already have that in your brain, you're going to lose the race. Like if you're telling yourself, don't take that chance, there's no point for you to even be on that gate. Right. Yeah. And that's like, again, if you're injured and you know that you're not going to take that chance, you're not going to race to your fullest, what's the point of even being on the gate? So I kind of had like a mental check, and I was able to kind of push through that. I read a mental training book with all my athletes. And I will say that when I read it before my injuries to after my injuries, different things hit home way differently, right? Like every time I read it, I learn something different. I interpret it differently. And I just really worked on, if I get in the gate, I'm going 100%. I am deserving to be here, and I'm deserving to be on the podium spot, right? And even if it's a fake it till you make it, that's what you got to do. But I think it just came from the confidence of I'm strong, I'm healthy, I have no limitations. Like I'm prepared for this, and I'm able to go do my best, right? And I think with BMX too, like sitting next to Elise in the gate, you're like, she's going to the Olympics, she's this person. You have to be able to get in the gate and say, I'm beating Elise Willoughby right now, right? And at first, being in the pro class, that's really intimidating, right? Because you're like, she's going to get first, I'm just going to try to get second, third, fourth. Right. But like that cannot be your mindset when you get in the gate. And I think it's just a maturity thing to work on that mental side of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shannon, like you're about to say something.
I was gonna say it's gotta be hard because I got in the gates with people before. I'm like, I know I'm not beating this guy, bro. Oh my God. You know, here we go. You know,
I'll give you a mental trick. So if you are in the gate, like obviously you see who's next to you. You can't be like, I'm in this gate by myself, right? Like that's not going to work because you physically see them. What I do and what the training book, like the simplest way to block all those things out is you put one word or one phrase in your brain on repeat, just on repeat. So for me, it's first turn first. It's very simple. It's the task that my brain needs to do. First turn first. As soon as I stop repeating that in my brain, it's like, what if Elise cuts me off? What if I hit the gate? What if this? What if this? All the negative things start like coming into your brain.
Right.
But if you're able just to put one thing on repeat, there's no room in there to put anything else, right? So I never look left or right. I look at the first turn first. That's the end goal, right?
Cool.
See, mine is usually don't crash.
See, okay.
Right.
Did you know that your body does not know the word don't or not? So when you say don't crash, all it's hearing is crash.
Crash. Oh, jeez. There you go.
You're teaching yourself.
Oh, man. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Your body does not understand your brain saying the negative term.
Wow.
So it's funny because my worst injury was when I got in the gate and I was like, I don't care if I crash or not, bro. I am trying to win this race. Yo. Like by any means, I'm beating everybody in this gate today, you know, and I meant it and I felt that way coming out the gate, but it just didn't work out. But
yeah,
you know, you got, like you said, you got to feel like that, you know? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you made it to the mains though. So that's good, you know?
Yeah.
So,
for me?
No, for him. He made it to the mains. Like, you know, because there's a lot of riders in our age group. For you guys, it's always, you know, usually your 20, 25 riders for the women's class. But who have you raced that has given you the most trouble other than Elise?
The most trouble as in like speed wise or as like aggressive gonna take me out?
Oh, there's a difference between those ones. Let's go to both of those. Let's go to both of those.
I would say the fastest is definitely like Elise, and Molly Simpson is definitely stepped up her game a lot. She has a first straight and she can get it done. Peyton Reindauer, definitely the same thing. Like if they get a first straight, it's really hard to chase them down. The people in the class that are kind of known to be the first turn like destroyers is Carly Kane and Skittles. Those two are the ones that like you have to be in the perfect position in the turn and be rigid, or they're gonna come and get you, right? If you give them an inch, they're gonna take it, right? So it's almost like if you see that they're in gate 2 and you're in gate 4, you have to cut them off before they have any chance of getting you in the turn, right? And it's like, it's not a bad thing, but it's just, you have to know who you're racing. Because if not, they're going to take that advantage if you give it to them.
True.
That's like knowing Drew Polk is in your moto or something, you know. I've seen him go from, I swear, like, because, I mean, there's definitely faster guys in his group. You know, he doesn't get the best starts. I mean, of course, he's a great rider. He's strong. He'll get there, you know. But right now, like, he'll come out the gate and he might be like 5th or 6th or, you know, 4th maybe. But he'll just kind of hold back, keep calm, drop back to 7th or 8th, whatever, and then boom, hit a turn. Now he's in 2nd or 3rd place.
I think his really came from he wasn't the fastest as a kid, and so he had to be smart. So he didn't have that natural ability to get the whole shot. And so if he wanted to win races, because he was so determined to win at a young age, that he had to build that craftiness. And now it's paying off because he has the speed in elite. So it's kind of the same thing, like as the skills. You either are building them under the surface and maybe not winning, and then it'll shine through when the time comes. It just you have to be dedicated to do it long enough. A lot of people aren't willing to hold out that long, if that makes sense.
I can see that.
And you know, when I come out the gate, when I'm not in the position I want to be in, I'm like, oh man, oh no, you know, like I got to get into position. It's like, you got to keep calm, you know, and just don't worry about it, bro. It's going to work out. Just be calm.
It's just the more you're in that position, right? Like you can't train that. You can think about it, but you just have to be put in that position time and time again and slowly be making tweaks to get you to that comfortable spot.
Cool. Okay, I wanted to show this one video real quick, and then I wanted to discuss it with you.
Okay.
All right, B-main event. Let's see what goes downtown right now. Oh, got to be Delaney Vaughn taking this one into turn number 1. DK Biolab colors. Oh, Sweet Pea Armstrong picking it up for that 2 spot out of the first turn, 2nd straightaway. Ladies taking it upstairs. Gomer's trying to get a piece of the podium right now. Fayette hold on to that 3 spot. Powerlight DFR. Uh-oh, lost one. Into turn number 2 as they head down the 3 straightaway. Still, it's all Vaughn. Gomer takes it up top through the big side. Going down the 3 straight. Back through into that last turn. It's all Vaughn. Oh! Armstrong finds the open door right there. She says, I'll take the top of the podium for a B main.
So did you know, like, did you feel like that was going to be your moment towards the end, or?
I had no idea, to be honest. I hadn't raced Delaney, I think, all day. Usually you kind of get a sense of like, these people are fast here, they're slow here, or I'm going to take advantage of this turn, that kind of situation. But I hadn't raced her all day. And I was just kind of holding on. That track was painful. Like my legs were so destroyed by that point. Like I was bonking manuals and like just trying to take pedals and they were like choppy. And so I was just smooth, consistent. And a lot of times being in second is much easier than first because you have a clear shot of like, oh, there's the hole. I'm going to go for it. Whereas she had no idea. Like I talked to her after that race. She had no idea that I was there. Had no idea that was even a line. Like I just saw it and went for it. And that's kind of what happened.
Cool.
Yeah. But it was a fun track. It was technical, but I would say that was probably the most fatiguing track for grands that I've ever raced in my life. I've never had my legs hurt that bad after a race. So
you didn't change your gears because you're not real big on changing gears, right? So whatever you do at Rock Hill, it's the same gear you came into.
Yep, that was a 4416 classic gear.
So how do you feel about them with the oddball obstacles that they've been throwing into the mix? Like as far as the moguls or I don't know what they call them.
I get what they're doing. They're just trying to make it fresh and different and like throw a challenge in there. But I really think that it's like, I don't like it very much. I think it's tough because if you're in a race situation and you're pushed to a certain line or you're pushed like into the middle of the zigzag or the X or the whatever, that I think it could be pretty dangerous. People say like if you're an expert or a pro, like you should be able to deal with that. But I think it's cool like to have a track if you're like practicing it or like it's a fun thing. But as like you being efficient and going fast and being right next to somebody or being like elbow to elbow, getting an elbow and then going through the X or Z, like I think that's pretty sketchy, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's fresh and fun. They're changing it up.
Where were the moguls? Was that the Southern California race?
Mm-hmm.
Because
people basically just they picked a line either left or right, and they just did it like a manual, like they would in the rhythm section. So it didn't seem to affect them, but only if you picked your left or your right, but then you got pushed in the middle. Now what do I do? Like that's the tough part.
So when I first saw it, and I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, there's going to be a lot of wrecks," so I expected that, but there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot of wrecks.
There wasn't. Yeah, so maybe it's a good thing. I haven't ridden them, so they had it in Virginia, and then they had it in Southern California. So
I thought it was cool because I figured like if you raced a long time and you raced a lot of tracks, you're probably tired of the same old obstacles, like because it's the same thing, just in different positions, with different order or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just, when they started throwing that stuff in, I thought it was pretty cool,
Yeah. I think it was actually Missouri that last weekend that they did it. The track was super soft, like rutting and super soft, but they had moguls. So like, in my opinion, I'd rather track have a good surface and you focus on that than creating something new. Right. Like,
right.
But I agree. Like it's something fresh, something new. Yeah.
Ben, you guys are going at a different speed than we are. Like the moguls for us, that's fun for us. But when you guys are going at the speed you guys are going, like that's a whole different mindset of that right there. Because you guys are
I talked to like Sean Day, and he's like, yeah, you just pretty much just go through it. Like didn't have to think about it, just go through it. Okay, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So basically, nutrition. Is there an off season, on season for you?
Kind of, sort of. I give myself December to eat all of the things that I want to eat. And like, I love eggnog and I love all like Christmas cookies and all those things. But for me, like, I don't track my food anymore. I know that I need to prioritize protein and have healthy fats and healthy carbs. And I've built that into my lifestyle and their habits now that it doesn't feel like a diet. Like the things I eat taste good to me. Like they're good macros. They're high in protein. They are what I need. And it's not like I'm like eating a salad every day and like hating my life. I enjoy what I eat. I enjoy what I cook. So it doesn't feel terrible. So there's not really an off season, but I would say like Christmas time, there's definitely more treats around to have.
So what are you eating on, let's say Friday night after that?
After a national, I like to do a big thing of protein. So if it's a steak or a chicken or something of that nature,
Okay.
and then some kind of clean carb. So if it's like rice or potatoes or sweet potatoes or something of that nature, having a well-rounded meal that can fuel my body back up is the best.
Right.
On race day, you want mostly carbs. You don't want much protein in the middle of the day because your body's going to be using that energy to digest that fuel or that protein, where the carbs are way easier to digest. So you're actually getting energy from them. So in the race day, I have a big breakfast and a big dinner. In the middle is like all carbs and just kind of fuel, if that makes sense. So you're kind of eating 2 meals.
I'm saying, yeah. See, that's what I was trying to tell you, Shannon. I carb up during the day when I go to nationals.
On some race days, I will just eat like apples, bananas, honey. That's kind of it. Like that's plenty.
So what would you eat in between motos?
Ooh.
I make sure that I have at least a bite of something and I drink something, right? So it could be like a piece of bread with honey on it. It could be a banana with peanut butter on it. It could be an apple. It could be like a granola bar that is mostly carbs, right? Like most of the like oat granola bars.
Just something small, something light, right?
And my rule is you have to eat something. If it's one bite of it, cool. You need to eat something after every single lap because that's when people are like up here and they just kind of energy is going down. And once you get to a certain point, it's hard to charge back up. So it's easier to like go down a little bit, charge back up, than to be like on the decline and have to get your way all the way back up.
Right.
So what do you eat in between motos?
Me? See here, cheeseburgers, nachos,
all the things.
Right. There's nothing off the table when I'm down. Yeah, I figure, if I'm going to travel here, they want me to experience the food culture. So,
for sure. But I save that for my Sunday. Like when I'm done racing, I can go eat all the like local things. If it's Chicago pizza or if it's a Philly cheesesteak or whatever it is, I'll go do that afterwards. I won't restrict myself for like the local stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, I saw him at the concessions booth one time and getting, I don't know what he was getting, like 2 cheeseburgers or something. I'm like, bro, what are you doing, man?
I had hours. It's different for us. And
it is different for you guys than it is us. Like we're racing every 45 minutes, so it's I can do those 2 meals, compact it all, and be good with my carbs.
Yeah.
That's why I thought about becoming a pro, just so I'm on a schedule and I know,
That is one of the biggest like pros to being a pro, like having a time schedule and being like, okay, I'm going to be done at 5 o'clock. I'm not going to be done at 10 p.m.
Right.
So what happened to that whole racing at night thing that they were going to do? Did that
I do
work
not
out?
know that answer.
I think they ran it like once or twice and that's it. They just never talked about it again.
They ran it twice and then they didn't do it for our last national before Grands, which was Texas. They didn't do it then. And I don't know. I think it was mostly like a testing thing. They were just seeing if it would work, if people would actually like stay around and watch. They're just trying to mimic like the supercross, motocross stuff, like having it an actual event. But I don't know if we are there yet with amount of people.
You know what? It tripped me out when you said that there's a lot of tracks that never had a pro rider there, like or kids that rode that never seen a pro rider. Do you understand what that means to a kid? Like what that meant to me. There was a kid that rode at our track that became a pro, and then he continued coming to our track. And then we used to follow him at different races. Then we seen him in the magazines. It was like so motivating to see like our guy, out there racing with these big pro names and just when he showed up to the track with his mongoose stuff on, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Well,
that's what it's supposed to be like. I go out to the track and I'm wearing the new kit and everybody's like, oh, I want that because Olivia has that. That's the whole purpose of a pro being sponsored. And we're kind of losing that a bit.
That meant everything to us. Like and I'm just thinking if we didn't have that, like I don't know how our childhood at the track would have been because that was everything, waiting for him to show up and waiting for him to race and waiting for him,
Yeah.
It was just like, that was it,
Yeah. And I think too, we have like our culture has like a lot of the pros train on their own time. They don't go to local tracks. They're not with the kids. And that's the number one thing we can give back to the sport, right? We're helping them grow. Like even if you are making money from coaching a clinic, you are doing so much for those kids because they get to talk to you one-on-one and they get to be like, yeah, Olivia told me to do this and now I'm going to do this, right? Like their motivation behind that is so big. And just to see the kids light up and just like love the sport, it's the coolest thing ever. So I wish more pros were doing it. I think it's starting to roll a little bit more where pros are doing more. But I think every single pro could be doing clinics and going to the local track and practicing with the kids and doing that kind of stuff.
Because when they're there, like every kid is excited. Like the energy of the track is totally different when there's a pro there. Like everybody's watching and everybody's pointing. Look what he's gonna do here. Look, watch how fast he is. Look at his gates. Look at his bike. Look, it's just like it's the coolest thing. And then he leaves, the energy goes down. It's just how it is.
It's just a local Tuesday night after he leaves.
It is, but I've seen it before, So yeah.
So with your van, are you doing the whole traveling thing for this season as well?
It's gonna be a shorter trip. I'm still planning it right now. It's gonna be a little bit shorter of a trip. Last year we did 2 full months. That was a bit much in the van. Like it was super fun. But it wasn't ideal for my training. I was riding a bunch. Like I rode so many tracks. My bike skill was super good. I felt comfy on my bike, but like I went to the gym, but I wasn't recovering like I should. Because you're constantly on the go. Driving to the next clinic or driving to the next race, or you never really have that like downtime. And so I'm going to cut a little bit shorter this year because I really want to do good this year and I have some goals to really accomplish. So I'm just going to do a little bit shorter of a van trip, still do some, but just prioritizing the training a little bit more.
Cool. Does your van have a TV in it?
It does not. I just use my computer. We watch some Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. It takes too much. Like when you're in the van, you realize what things take electricity and what things you need and what you don't need. Right. Like I don't bring any like straightener for my hair or anything of that nature because doesn't matter. Right. Like I need to like cook my food. I don't really need like straight hair. You prioritize those kind of things. So
makes sense.
I charge my computers when we go places and then it's good to go.
Let's see here. What else did I have for you? The girls from the BMX race group had a question, which you already answered was the what's your phrase or mantra, which you were basically saying, which was I forgot what it was.
First turn first.
There you go. I'm like it was right there.
It's simple, but that's what works for me. It's not really a mantra, like it's not like a confidence booster, but it helps me lock in. So.
Don't crash.
Yeah, no, not that. We're going to have to rephrase that.
Right? So basically in your downtime, what do you like to do for yourself?
I really like to cook. That is, I know it's not like downtime, but I really like to cook. I love going on walks with my aunt, like my dogs. We have 2 dogs and they're awesome. I have 2 little nieces, and so I hang out with the family and just play card games, board games, do that kind of fun stuff, do family dinners.
Okay.
Saturdays are for Supercross. Every Saturday night, that's Supercross time.
That's cool.
But yeah, I stay pretty busy, to be honest. Like with training, I working at this gym, I do my online coaching. It's pretty busy. So I do what I can to like relax when I can.
So what does a normal day look for you, like as far as waking up, what time, and as far as going to bed?
Yeah, it's pretty, it varies a lot. With this new job, I am coaching like tonight in a couple minutes, I got to go. I'm coaching a BMX group at the gym. And so it depends on the day of what, like they train on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I coach a volleyball one on Mondays, and then I have softball on Wednesdays. And like, it kind of changes. But I get to be with all these different athletes, all different ages, and see them progress, which is like so cool. It's not just BMX right now. But in the mornings, I wake up, I go to the gym, 7 a.m. That's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And it's 2 lower body, 2 upper body days. So I know what to expect when I get there. Come home, get a good breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so get some good protein. And then I'm either at my desk doing my training for my kids, or I'm at the desk at the gym and I'm doing all kinds of sales and different admin stuff for them.
Right.
And then most of my day is spent on calls. I'm talking to people majority of the day. If that's a check-in with my kids, or if I'm doing a video review, or I'm doing something for the gym with like a phone call, I'm usually talking majority of the day. And then in the afternoon, I'll do either my second training or I'll be coaching some kids. So, and then it all starts back up in the morning.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much what I got. You got anything else you want to add, Shannon?
No, that was cool. Checking up, just making sure you are okay and still racing and
yeah, for sure.
Still inspired.
Yeah, and I will be in Bakersfield. I'm not going to go to Rock Hill, but I'll be in Bakersfield. So we're training, and I hope to get some podium spots. So feel really fast, really strong. So
then let me ask you with that though. So why not Rock Hill?
This year I've had so many injuries on the Supercross hill, and like I said, I don't think it's worth it. If I was really trying to go to Olympics this year or for the next cycle, I would be pushing that, but it's not realistic. And I want to preserve my body and make sure that I'm happy and healthy when I'm older. And the risk versus reward for me personally just isn't there. I understand it for a lot of other athletes, but for me, I'm totally okay saying no to the Supercross and doing the racing that I enjoy, right? Like when I'm on top of that hill, I'm not having fun. If I'm on the top of the hill at a local or at a normal race, I am excited to go race and compete. But when I'm on the Supercross hill, that's not my mindset. So it was a maturity thing, and it was something tough to decide because people are hating on me 24/7, like just jump the jump. But came to the conclusion that that's not what I want to do. So I'm just gonna race a small hill, and you can still win a USABMX title through the small hill. So
definitely, that's pretty cool. I'm glad I asked you that, because that's pretty cool. You know, some people just won't say that that's the reasons to why they're doing it. Like, I just, don't like the track, or, they'll make up something just so that way they can just kind of fade it off or something. But that's a pretty cool understanding to why you're not doing it. So
focus on the things you can do and you want to do. Like I said, it's all about having fun. I don't want to preach it to my kids and then not do it myself. So
all right, and one last thing. Sorry, 12-year-old expert. You don't want to race no more. You've won, you won back to back. Everything's good. You just lost everything. What would you tell yourself to get you back on, to get you back on that edge again?
The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure I took a break at like 12 years old, where my parents' rule was always, if you start a season, you end a season. So at the beginning of the season, like ours is like April because we still have snow until then. Do you want to race BMX? And it was either a yes or a no. If you said yes, you're committed until October at the end of the season. There's no quitting in the middle of it. Right. And I'm pretty sure, I think it was 12-ish. I was like, this is not fun anymore. I don't want to do this. And after the first couple months, I didn't get to go to the track, didn't get to have fun with my friends, didn't get to do that stuff. And I was like, Mom, can I please go to the track? And I got back into it. But I would say, if you enjoy doing it, and I would ask, what is the reason you're quitting, right? Are you quitting because it's too hard? If there's something that's too hard, that's a dumb excuse. We can figure out how to work our ways around it, right? And if it's a fear, then we need to work through that. If I was a parent at a kid like that, the fear is something that's going to come up in life many more times in their life. There's not going to be something that's just going to come easy. Like, fear is going to be a part of it. So we're going to learn to overcome that now in this fun setting than later in life in a harder situation. Right. And I think just explaining to them that good things are hard and we have to work for them, and they're not going to come easy. Because I think majority of the time that's why kids want to quit, is because it's too hard and it's too much work, or they're scared. But it's just having someone to explain to them the process.
Yeah, especially if it came easy to them, at one point, because some kids just naturally have speed and skill, and they just win, and then they become expert. They become 12, 13, 14. They hit a national, and they're like, oh my God, Yeah.
Well, so, and I think motivation is very short term. If I were to motivate a kid, that's not their motivation deep down. That's motivation, me giving it to them. So I stay away from the motivation talks, because it doesn't stick. They have to want it themselves. So.
True.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, I guess we're good. Shannon, you have anything else you want to add?
No, we good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Of course.
time.
Of
And
course.
I'll probably get up in like a week or so.
All right. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Yep.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you for watching another episode of Real BMX Racing, the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major platforms. Don't forget to check out the website, Real BMX Racing.